Finance Minister has been meeting several industry bodies to gather inputs on how to revive the economy. Syndicate Bank's Managing Director and CEO Mrityunjay Mahapatra met the Finance Minister with other banking chiefs recently. Let's speak to him and understand how the government can help the economy get back on its feet. Mr. Mahapatra, thanks very much for taking out the time. Give us some insight into what kind of conversation you've had and what exactly are the ground level issues that you discussed.
We discussed a range of issues. The finance minister was taking our views regarding what exactly needed to be done to kickstart some of the sectors which are showing signs of slowdown. In addition to that, also the agenda included the factors relating to aligning the banking sector to the demands of the economy, which are essentially, taking credit to the MSME sector, taking digitization to the next step, and also at the same time finding out how we can develop mechanisms for faster credit deliveries to sectors like agriculture, sectors like retail, which are necessarily the engines of growth. So all these were discussed at length. And after that, we decided that we will take the responsibility of making credit growth happen to the grassroots level. And with this, we also did these ideation seminars with our branch heads and regional heads. So I think we are taking the first steps that are necessary to build a solid foundation for this alignment to take place.
Sure. So with this meeting that you had with the branch heads, what is it that you guys are putting on the table in terms of constructive feedback?
No, there were 9 themes on which there were discussions. For example, use of technology in public sector banks, how to increase digitization, credit for India's MSME, credit for retail, improving corporate governance and assuming responsibility and accountability for what all we do. The constructive suggestions, there were many. For example, MSME sector suggestions included that we should create specialized branches like whatever we have done in the large credit and mid-corporate sector. The same thing must be extended to the MSME sector, and increasing the ease of doing documentation, because MSME sector is unable to do that. Similarly, for use of digitization, there was a suggestion that one bank, one app, rather than having 5 or 6 apps for different segments. If we can have one app on which people can come and do the banking, and creating database and analytics for the entire banking system, so that somewhere the risk management becomes a little more stronger. Those were the kind of ground level suggestions that came about.
Mr. Mahapatra, since we've been talking about it not being a supply side constraint issue, but the fact that credit demand is not picking up, what kind of numbers are we looking at in terms of an overall growth projection for the industry as a whole towards the end of the year? What would be that number realistically?
No, we are currently looking at a slower rate of growth in the first couple of quarters. In fact, the first quarter growth has been either flattish in some sectors. We are seeing some growth in infrastructure, some growth in power, natural gas, but we are not seeing real growth in the manufacturing sectors like automobiles or chemicals or, for example, textiles, etc. So manufacturing sector growth need to pick up, for which capacity planning generally begins after the monsoon gives its statement that whether it is a normal monsoon, or because the rural and semi-urban sector demand essentially depends on what is the monsoon characteristics. Now, monsoon was a little delayed this time, but as all of us know, monsoon has picked up. I hope that the rural and semi-urban demand will pick up, and the demand for credit will also pick up.
Sure. Mr. Mahapatra, there was a lot of market anticipation with regards to recapitalization, some announcement regarding that to happen over the weekend. It didn't happen. But, what would it be that you would be vying for if there is an announcement of banking recapitalization?
As of now, as I told you, our requirement for regulatory capital for keeping the bank compliant with whatever are the Reserve Bank of India guidelines is already existent. There's no problem about it. In fact, we have growth capital to grow by around 6 to 8% without any problem. In fact, as we realign our credit portfolio, we'll require a lower capital because RBI has also amended its rules regarding capital requirement for NBFCs. So some capital will be released there. But once the growth picks up, we will require additional capital. Additional capital maybe 8 to 10,000 crores for if the, let's say, the credit growth happens at a rate of 18 to 24%. Currently, it is happening at 4 to 6%. So if 18 to 24% growth happens, we will definitely require more capital.